Some information about the actual ceremony, some of the music. Now, we understand that the Carters have been very involved in the planning of these 3 days of events. This is exactly how they wanted things to flow. The scriptures being read were verses that they chose. The songs that are being sung are songs that they chose. So this is a very personal service for, obviously, for the family, but for them, because they really kind of planned this. So as I see, as I'm looking down here, some of the music that will be sung, it's going to end with, which I think is kind of interesting, Imagine by John Lennon, which we saw yesterday in that ceremony. Trisha Yearwood and Garth Brooks do a version of that, which I thought was really touching, because there's so many different hymns and other songs, and that secular song like that was kind of meaningful in a different way. And
obviously meaningful in such a way that it's included again in this service, this private service happening here in really a matter of minutes.
Now, we can't see from this vantage point what the motorcade was like. It departed from their home, the home they bought there in Plains back in 1961. The motorcade departed there and headed through downtown Plains to Maranatha. But, you know, it's a small town. The town's got about 550 people. But I can only imagine, and I hope we'll be able to find out when we check in a little bit later with Brooke Zahner or with Tyler Fingert, what the sides of the road look like as we see the family making their way into the church now. But I know that people, because this service is private, it's invitation and it's family, the general public not allowed, you know, people still kind of want to be a part of it. And the way to be a part of it is to line the streets and you know, show your respects as the hearse makes its way to the church.
And we know that the service is going to include a few tributes from Mrs. Carter's sons, Jack and Jeff, and also some scripture readings by 3 of her great-grandchildren.
And that was something that was so obvious with yesterday's service, that the selections, the hymns, the scripture, they were things that were so very important to her. And we're seeing that really unfold again here with this service. And
Tony Loudon, the pastor, will be doing the eulogy as expected. And also one other thing I think is interesting in here is they're gonna sing Amazing Grace, and they're gonna have the congregation sing as well. It's not just a singer performing Amazing Grace, but a very meaningful song, obviously for people of faith. And so that'll be a nice moment before the benediction, and it ends with the recessional of Imagine. So we're just, you know, moments away from the start of the celebration of life, and what a life it is to celebrate. 1927 to 2023, 96 years, the longest living First Lady in the history of our country. Actually, the second longest, I take that back. Bess Truman lived a little bit longer, but this is the longest married couple. First couple in our nation's history at 77 years. So what a love story that is, and you can see it as we take a look inside now. The family making their way in. It's not a huge church, but I imagine it's going to be, you know, packed to the gills for people that are able to get in and witness this today.
And Good Day's Brooke Zahner is outside of the church this morning. Brooke, we want to check in with you.
Yeah, good morning. We just saw that motorcade arrive here moments ago with Secret Service, other officials, of course, those the Honor Guard, members of the Honor Guard here at the door, and of course near the former president. I'm going to step aside and show you. Most of the family has now entered into the church. We saw a sweet moment happen before this. I don't know if you guys were showing this at the time, but we saw the family kind of gathering around the vehicle that former President Jimmy Carter was in, and you could see them from the backs of we could really just see the backs of them, but they were clearly embracing each other. You could just tell that this was such an emotional moment for them. I also noticed that some of them were wearing Hawaiian leis as well. We know that the Carters spent some time in Hawaii. We actually heard some of the family members talking about how Mrs. Rosalynn Carter was pretty good at the hula, as it turns out. So I thought that was a really sweet thing to see. I saw just briefly former President Jimmy Carter also, it looked like he had a Hawaiian lei as well. Just a nice tribute, and kind of shows just the type of woman that she was.